And you're good. You're live now.
All right, kids, here we are. The first annual Let's Try to Remember Shit
How's
finals.
your memory? Is your memory with you today?
Ah, shit, I left it out in the truck.
What is the date? Today's the 10th of...
Today is 11th. Today's November 11th.
The 11th.
November, oh shit.
2023.
That date?
Of
Oh no,
23.
that was 9/11. Okay, well, we're close.
But for the sake of it,
Let's blow
who
this
are you
out.
guys?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Wee Willie.
I'm the third. William Clyde Forkners, the third. Not to be confused with Junior or his dad. But I have been confused. I'm still confused. But anyway, we are relations to the flamboyant Wino Willie. This is my sister. She got dropped on her head a couple times, but she stayed with us.
TD here.
I guess this ain't a comedy show. Knock it off, DJ.
I didn't say that.
And we have DJ, Wino's best friend, for many, many years. I get video of you guys, DJ. You guys see it. It's a crack up.
We need to put that in with this. Everything needs to be combined.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Everything.
Hey, we gotta start somewhere, right? Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking
It's
about.
going to be bits and pieces put together.
Yeah.
And it'll turn out good if it's done right.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do that reading?
I'll read this, and I'm not. It's been a long time since I read it, so I'm not sure what's in it. This is written by Rip from Easy Rider, and I kind of Shanghaied
Chris
it.
out there. Did Chris want to come in?
Shanghaied
Come on
it.
in, Chris.
For
Jump in a seat. We're going to start going through it, and anything we remember, we do. And
Chris Van Peer here. He's a
Wino-
good friend of
Wino's-
Wino.
good old buddy in
Spent
the
a lot
good
of
old
drinking.
days. Want to sit over here, Chris?
Billy, I gotta run off pretty soon.
Oh, okay. Well, it's all right. I know it took us too long.
Somebody was late. See,
Sit down for 5 minutes.
I can't see anymore.
Oh,
know.
I know. I got that one too. Well,
Get
don't get
cataracts,
yourself
I
in
get
trouble. We
cataracts.
were just talking. This is just the beginning. We're going to go through this a few times. So, by all means, if
Pick
you
and
need to
choose
go,
what we
go ahead
like.
and go. But we appreciate you showing up.
Really do.
Yeah.
Chris, it's really good to see you again. You know, I always had fun when I go down there, and Dad and you would be tipping back a few. You know.
Yeah.
So I was going to read this. This is was written by Rip from Easy Rider. It's kind of Wino's history. It says Wino Willie Forkner was born in Fresno, California in 1920. He moved to LA and attended Washington High when it was new. He was working for Douglas Aircraft and was married with several dependents in 1939, which means he could have easily exempt from the draft. When he enlisted in the Army Air Corps and fought in the South Pacific as an engineer waist gunner flying in the B-24s, he had been involved with motorcycles before he went in the service, having purchased a 1929 Indian Scout in 1935 with $30 that he earned picking cotton and pitching hay. There was a club in the Los Angeles area called the 13 Rebels, which was formed in 1937. Willie liked their style and hoped to join them on his return from the war. When he returned, Willie got a job driving truck for Peoria Freight and working for John Cameron. At some point, John fired Willie. Wonder what that was over. But when he started up his own company, he hired Willie to haul lumber from Fort Bragg to LA. It was during that period that the two of them joined the 13 Rebels. But Willie was somehow disappointed with the club experience. During his tour of duty, the club members who had not gone to war had mellowed out, settled down with families, and started making decent money. They hadn't been riding due to the fuel shortage. They just weren't the same group anymore. What finally caused Willie to break with the 13 Rebels occurred at an AMA-sanctioned event in El Cajon, California in 1946. Willie is watching the race from the stands and drinking with his pal Blackie. They both were bragging that they could put on a better show than those guys who were out there racing. Willie got the idea that he and Blackie could crash their bikes through the wooden fence and be out on the track to show them all how it's really done. Blackie expressed concern about hitting the fence, but Willie assured him that all he had to do was put his head down on the tank and hold on, and it would all work out just fine. Willie went for it, and Blackie just chicken shitted out and stayed in the parking lot. The plan to crash the gate worked just fine. The crowd came alive. I remember Dad talking about this story and how everybody was booing and hissing up in the grandstands, you know, because the racers had been off to war and they weren't that good, you know. It's been a long time. And Dad was drinking up there with Blackie, and he was saying, "Shit, Blackie, hell with this noise, we can put on a better show than this." And that's when they headed to the parking lot. People, when they crashed through the gate, the plan to crash through the gate worked just fine. The crowd came alive. People were hooting and hollering. Miraculously, he came on the track, heading in the right direction, but behind the pack. He rode like hell and not only caught up in 3 laps, but passed the leader before crashing in a turn. John Cameron, who was working the corner, was the one who got Willie under control and managed to extract him from the track.
Well, he pulled the spark plug wires.
The mag wire. Yeah, in the sashaying, they were all chasing him around the track, and he was sashaying at him, and they were throwing chairs at him, and they were doing it, man. But Dad said he was so damn drunk that John came out there and pulled the mag wire, and Dad kept kicking the bike. He didn't even realize that he wasn't going to run, no matter what he did. And then they arrested him. They arrested him there.
Yeah.
And they threw him in jail for that. That's not in the story.
No. Yeah.
There's another arrest.
Some things are
I
best
just
left
thought of another one
unmentioned.
too.
Go
Well,
ahead.
go ahead with yours, and then we'll.
Okay. At the next 13 Rebel meeting, Willie caught hell. The story goes that he did something nasty in the club sweater. All the clubs had sweaters with their racing colors, which is where the term colors come from, and handed it back to them. I heard, you know what? I read
Wonder what color that was.
shit brown after he wiped his ass.
You think?
I heard that somewhere. I don't know.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. That's right. Allegedly. He had decided to start his own club. Origin of the Booze Fighters. The All-American Bar just off Central on Firestone in Los Angeles was a favorite hangout of all the riders at the time. Willie and some of his friends were commiserating with each other in their usual fashion by getting drunk and discussing the new club to be formed. Walt Porter, it is said, managed to lift his bestowed head off the table long enough to suggest the name the Booze Fighters.
That's right.
And it stuck. Contrary to popular belief, the name does not mean that they like to get drunk and fight, although that happened often enough. It was intended to mean that they were all fighting the booze, and it was a constant battle. The original green and white color was chosen because that's what Willie found at Sears and Roebuck when he went shopping for club sweaters.
It was
Yeah.
it was a baseball club that had the jerseys
Uh-huh.
made. They paid for them and didn't pick them up. So Wino went to Sears and got a bargain, like a couple cents.
Yeah,
That's
half
right up
price.
his
is better.
alley.
Yeah, I'll take 'em.
He had the 3-star bottle and the club name embroidered on at the Broadway knitting mills. From the beginning, the intent was to keep the bylaws simple. Anybody joining has to swear an oath to get drunk at least once a week. The colors always up. Provision meant that if you got drunk and passed out on your back, you'd better hope one of the other guys would turn you over so that your colors were showing, or else you would be out of the club. Wow. hard. Any chapter of the Booze Fighters was originally supposed to have a maximum of 20 members. This was due to the fact that the original chapter had a large trailer van which they hauled around to various race sites on weekends. They could only get 20 guys in the trailer in order to sneak them into the races. Thus the limit in imposition. I don't know that word. Unsanctioned by the AMA. Unfortunately, the AMA did not appreciate the implications of the name and refused to sanction the club or allow members to race in the AMA-sanctioned events. This was an irritant to Willie, but it was no problem. He just started up another club, which he called the Yellow Jackets. This club had no problem becoming sanctioned. Many of the members of various clubs would race under different colors at that time. And so when the Booze Fighters wanted to race, they wore the Yellow Jacket colors. The race that was scheduled at Hollister for the 4th of July weekend in 1947 was an AMA-sanctioned event put on by Gypsy Tours. It had been taking place in town since back in the 30s before the war. The individual members who made up the Booze Fighters had attended the event in the past, but according to Wino Willie, back then there were a lot of hungry reporters looking for something to write about since the war was over. This is how the 1954 movies, The Wild Ones, starring Marlon Brando and featuring Lee Marvin, came about. Anyone who hasn't seen The Wild Ones needs to put down this story and go out and rent the video so you can see how the movie grossly misrepresented what really happened in Hollister in 47.
True.
The following is the true story. Hollister, 1947. Newspaper advertisements for that weekend so many years ago carried banner lettering welcoming the motorcycles to town and featuring enticing ads for cheap liquor. An examination of the arrest records for the weekend indicated that some of the locals even got excessively caught up in the festivities.
Imagine
I have to drink. Howard Decker, writing in the Pinnacle, a local San Bernardino publication, does a good job of setting the record straight. What's that word?
Where we at?
I don't know.
Enumerating. Okay. Some of the more interesting charges and sentences of the bikers and residents. According to the article, 49 people were guests of the city that weekend. 22 for drunkenness, 9 for disturbing the peace, 2 for reckless driving, and some miscellaneous counts involving vagrancy and indecent exposure. That's when.
Red Doldrin pissed in the radiator.
Yeah, filled the radiator.
And he went to jail for it.
Yeah.
And he went to jail. But they don't mention in here the 22 for drunkenness.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I read a book talking about Hollister that time, and it was listing a lot of the guys. And I said, Jesus, I was talking to Mom about it. I said, Jesus Christ, Mom, almost all the club members of the Booze Fighters were in jail. I'm not kidding you. They all got picked up for something. And it says, the Booze Fighters do acknowledge responsibility for the one indecent exposure charge. It seems that member Jim Morrison got caught on the hood of the original Booze Fighter vehicle, an old Model T truck, pissing into the radiator.
It's understandable.
It was probably boiling over. He just
Well,
cooled it
that's
down.
right.
Turn it
Needed a
cool it
little
off.
coolant. What the hell?
Time to cool it off.
That was early days antifreeze. That
Yeah,
was it.
3 a morning.
Had a lot of alcohol in
Had a
it.
lot of alcohol.
Probably worked fine.
Hollister was a small town of little more than 4,000 people in 1947. the police force was made up of 3 guys, sometimes 5. So 49 people were
So-
guests of the city that
So-
weekend.
Tell how Wino ended up with him.
Well, I don't know if it says it in here, but Wino ended up with him because he found out that Red Dahlgren got thrown in jail for indecent exposure. And Mom come into the bar, and Dad was in there drinking. Mom said, "Jesus, Willie, they're gonna break out Red." And when Wino looked at Mom and said, "Well, why the hell are they gonna do that? Red's got a good place. He's got a bed to sleep on, some food. You know, he'd be out in the morning for the races. They should leave him alone." Mom says, "Well, they're going down there, and there's a lot of them." So Wino runs, and the whole bunch of them. There's probably 100 in the picture. You've seen the picture, DJ? 100 people in front of the cop shop. The whole street is full of bikers. And so Wino runs to the front of the crowd, and the 3 cops that are in the cop shop are looking out the window, and he's yelling at everybody, "Hey, calm down, you know," and he's trying to convince them that
He
that
needs a
Red's
nap.
fine,
Yeah.
he's got drunk, he's fine, he's going to be out in the morning. Well, the cops see Wino, and they run out and arrest him for inciting a riot, and they throw him in jail.
So when Wino gets into Hollister jail, he says, "You know, the jail wasn't that bad of a place to be. All my friends were already there."
And the town drunk. We might as well tell the town drunk story.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Wino and a couple of the guys got there 3 days before the races started in the Hollister. And they kept having this town drunk come up behind them. "I need a drink," you know, and they were like, "Get out of here." And pretty soon they said, "Okay, we'll buy you a drink, but you have to drink as much as we pour." So they got him set up there, and they started pouring the glass, and after a little while, this guy just kept downing him, and ass over tea kettle he goes, falls over backwards, and he's laid out on the barroom floor. And so they get this brilliant idea. There's this old wicker wheelchair sitting in the corner of the bar,
Oh yeah, I
and
know.
was it the big wheels on the front or the little wheels on the back? Yeah, I think it was the little,
yeah, it was backwards.
it was backwards,
Yeah.
right? So they put him in this wheelchair, and they wheel him out into the street, and they strap him in. They tie him down in this wheelchair, and they hook him behind the Model T, and they start doing laps up and down San Benito Street, back and forth. And Dad said they made 3 laps, and the guy ass over tea kettle, and he's laid out. Well, they're so drunk, they think they killed him at this point. And now they're panicked, in a drunken state. And they're like, "Oh shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And they pick up the body, and they throw it over the hood of the Model T, and they drive him down a back alley, and they cover him up with newspapers. And they go back to the bar to discuss, "Oh my God, now we're really in trouble." But the next day, when Wino gets thrown in jail, he hears the voice from the dead, "I need a drink," behind him, and it's the town drunk. He turns around, he's just scared the shit out of him because he thought for sure he was dead. So that's pretty funny. I mean, they should make a comedy out of their story, because it's a riot. So then it says, Hollister was a small town, 4,000 people in 47. The police force was made up of 3 to 5
I've
guys.
already been through that.
Yeah, they didn't have a police car. The chief of police, Fred Earle, made his rounds on a bicycle. It was the local police who blocked off the San Benito Street, the main drag between 4th and 6th Streets, in an effort to localize the activities. Townspeople brought their children downtown to watch the going-ons. Folks attending the Elk Lodge dance up above the Wallen drugstore watched from the 2nd floor window while the cyclist raced up and down the street and did donuts. It was only because the chief of police was afraid that if things got out of hand, the local constable would be unable to maintain control that they called the California Highway Patrol in. When the 30 CHP officers arrived on the scene, they interpreted the blocked off streets as a takeover by the bikers. There were many other clubs represented at Hollister that weekend, but the booze fighters were pretty predominant, with their big trailer parked on the main drag. There were approximately 10 members arrested for charges ranging from disturbing the peace, drunkenness, inciting to riot, and indecent exposure.
Kind of what we go through nowadays.
Yeah, kind of like
Same charges.
kind of like when you park your motorhome there. Same thing.
There we go. Only they knew better to mess with
Oh
that.
yeah, they just waved.
Wino's philosophy, he says, was, who cares about going to jail when you leave people smiling?
There you are. We're working at that every day.
That's right.
After the Hollister incident, there was a repeat performance in Riverside at another 3-day weekend race. Shortly after that, the AMA quit sanctioning 3-day events. Like any club, and as Willie witnessed with the 13 Rebels, the members change over the years. Those who didn't drop out altogether altered their style of participation due to settling down with families and mortgages. The club was very low-key during that period of time when outlaw clubs were beefing up. It wasn't over yet. Willie and J.D. Cameron kept up their bike building and restoration, even showing the bikes in the 70s and 80s. The club itself, however, had been pretty dormant until the 70s when Willie and J.D. were asked to ride in a parade at Fort Bragg and show off their restored bikes. They figured they couldn't ride without their colors, so they had some new jerseys made up in the traditional Kelly green and white, complete with the official insignias. Jim Cameron has preserved the minutes from the old meetings, and before they knew it, they were in operation again. 1988, Wino and JD took a look at their diminished organization and decided it was their shared desire to perpetuate the club. Willie started granting charters to sincerely interested individuals across the country. There are currently 69 official charters across the world. Wino's best friend and co-founder of the Booze Fighters, J.D. John Cameron, passed away July 28, 1996. J.D. was a life member of the AMA, while for understandable reasons, Willie let his membership lapse. But they both agreed on one thing. For 50 years, they have been having fun as a club, and they want to know that the fun will continue. Willie has been invited back to Hollister this year for the 50th anniversary of the Wild Ones, and he plans to attend for some hearty partying and good time fellowship with his brothers. Rumors have it that Marlon Brando is supposed to show up to ride in Willie's side hack. We're all wondering if he really has the balls to do it.
Did it happen?
That didn't happen.
No, Wino rode in the side act.
No, this one he didn't make.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah,
This
he
is
did.
the last one.
He
No,
rode in the side act because
not
I
on
was
the
fucking
50th.
driving.
Oh yeah, it wasn't
Was
all.
his
Oh,
That
yeah,
is-
that's right.
That's right.
Okay, punch me
Tell me
one.
the fucking story.
that the one?
Well, the legend lives
Yeah.
to ride.
Is it?
The one you built, we still got it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Let me finish this because this wraps up with some interesting stuff. Well, the legend lives to ride and rides to live, and will continue on in the true tradition of the Booze Fighters until the day he dies, and we wouldn't expect any different.
It's way beyond that now.
I wrote the preceding essay, 10 tell true stories about the Booze Fighters, not what you see in the movie, The Wild Ones, and not what BFMC wants you to believe. So I wrote this, The Plain Truth. This was actually told by Dad, as told by Wino Willie on May 25th, 1997. Several years ago, Wino met some people in Fort Worth, Texas, who were sympathetic to the life of the Booze Fighters. Trusting them, Wino sold his rights and interests to the BFMC for $10, confident they would carry on the tradition of the Booze Fighters. They immediately incorporated and trademarked the Booze Fighter name and logo, selling charters, collecting national dues, and capitalizing on what JD and Wino had built. They did not honor their commitment to JD and Wino. Realizing this, JD and Wino tried to buy back the BFMC for around $14,000 when they had only paid 10.
I think it was 1, but 10.
I know. I thought they were
Yeah.
exaggerating that
It
too,
was $1.
right?
Yeah.
BFMC Inc., as they had become, agreed at first, then refused, claiming a legal hold. They continued to sell charters and issue stock to build capital to merchandise BFMC, purchasing a house in Limo, claiming it was a business expense. That can't talk. They were using BFMC for profiteering. JD and Wino denounced BFMC and demanded their likeness, signatures, and endorsements not to be used by the BMFC Inc. Wino has proof of this on record, which we know. In 1996, JD passed away, and they immediately canceled his lifetime chapter number 4, which they promised never to do. A split developed. Some chapters start paying their dues directly to a fund for Wino's retirement instead of BFMC. Wino, realizing there are still many true booze fighter charters, establishes Chapter 1 out of Fort Bragg, California, in order to provide other possible disgruntled members a choice between the BFMC Inc. sanction or adhering to the history and traditions of the original booze fighter members and bylaws as established in the 40s. Wino still extends this invitation today. Those booze fighters that chose to stick by the wishes of the original Wild One want to let you know they do not capitalize on the BFMC. But today we all know that they do. They've all went that way. But want to stick by the traditions and ideas set forth by Wino Willie. They are committed to life to do right by Wino, the man who never lost sight of what biking and booze fighting was all about. And to carry on the history and brotherhood of the booze fighters. It is about fun and fellowship, racing what you ride, party partying, and peaceful coexistence. In the words of Wino, booze fighters are born, not made, and it ain't about money. Wino will be in Hollister on the 4th of July weekend this year for the 50th anniversary of Hollister with the original West Coast booze fighters. Rumor has it he'll be camping out in the Chief of Police Fred Earle's backyard for the weekend. Come out and be with Wino Willie and live the life of a true
That's right. Unfortunately,
Race what you ride.
he didn't make it
I like
alive,
that.
but he made
He
it.
didn't make it alive, but I'll tell you what, at the end there he was fighting like a mad dog to get that
Yeah.
club back so he could preserve